Hey, lady.
Hey, hey, hey.
How are you doing tonight, girl?
I am fantastic. I'm pumped up to be here in conversation with you.
It's
I'm well.
so good to see you, Ramunda.
Thank you. Good to be seen. Good to
Yes,
be
yes,
seen.
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It has been quite some time since you and I had an opportunity to get together. So I want to welcome you officially to the Relationship Zone podcast. Thank you for stopping
Uh,
by.
Thank you for having me. This is so dope. All of this space about relationships and a little extra sounds like. So I'm excited
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. So the relationship zone, we talk all things relationship, love, life. That's what we do here. Tonight we're supposed to be going live on Facebook. So I'm trying to make sure that everyone's able to find us on Facebook. I did get a message saying that someone wasn't able to find us on Facebook, but they saw us on YouTube. Okay. So
Okay.
if
All
you
right.
give me a second, I just want to make sure that we
Sure.
are
Take your time.
there on Facebook. This is important. So let's see. This, of course, it's what we do, whenever we're
That's
going,
right.
we're trying to go live. There's always and oftentimes there's some technical difficulties. So hopefully we can get up on Facebook. And if not, that's okay for the viewers that are watching or listening or looking for us. This video will be up on Facebook as soon as we finish, just in case we cannot go live on Facebook. Okay. So
Gotcha. No
I will
problem.
make sure there's a link for everyone to be able to listen in, but they can always be on YouTube. So send them to YouTube
That's
to the
right.
Relationship Zone. Okay. All right.
All
So
right.
let's do this. Ramunda, Mahogany
Yes.
Bookstore, DC. Girl, look at how it has blossomed and grown. I'm so proud of you. How are things going with you in that space?
Oh my goodness. It is going crazily well, right? So we started our bookstore actually 14 years ago. We started online. And
Mhm.
then 10 years later, we opened up a physical space, our first physical space in Anacostia in DC. And so it has opened with great fanfare 4 years ago. We opened on Black Friday. And so it was just an amazing journey to see that even though we started online, we were able to kind of transition into a physical space, a brick and mortar space. When a
Yeah.
lot of people were kind of doing the opposite, brick and mortar stores were closing at one point. And so here we are opening up one, like I said, 4 years ago. And it has been an amazing journey, one that I could not even imagine, even at this juncture. So far, so good. And we're got some great news coming up about
Oh,
another location, and we may chat about that soon.
yes.
But yeah, it's just an amazing journey. My husband and our daughter Mahogany, all three of us are official partners of the business, and so it's
Yeah.
really something that has been important to us to make sure Black books are accessible to anybody, no matter where they live.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? I love that because when I walk into your bookstore, it's absolutely amazing. And I know
Oh,
that, now during the pandemic, I get to order from home.
yeah.
I get the
Hmm.
wonderful emails from you all. I love it. And I'm like, I
Uh,
know them. I love it. I love all of it. I love all of it. Because of course I
yeah.
knew you before there was a bookstore, right? We're blessed
Yes.
to live in the same city. We're blessed to run in the
Yeah.
some of the same circles. We've had sisterhood conversations, and
Yes.
so I do have the privilege of knowing you before there was the bookstore as we
Hmm.
know it in Anacostia. So to see where you have grown to it's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. I watch you, and I'm always inspired and encouraged by you. Um,
Oh,
so
thank
speaking
you.
of that, because I know you
Thank you.
empower women, that is like your thing. People know you as the bookstore guru, right? But
Uh,
you have a love for empowering women of color, women. Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, I think, it's important to me for a lot of different reasons. One, I have two sisters. And so being around sisterhood is something that I've known my entire life, from birth almost. We're
Mhm.
all just a year apart. And so I loved what that felt like growing up. And I wanted other people to have a sense of sisterhood as well. And so when I went to Langston University, shout out to my HBCU, I'm so proud of. But when I was at Langston University, I had a great group of friends that were there. But then there were still some women who were not part of a tribe or didn't have that type of connection. And I knew how important it was to have a sisterhood. So even all the way back there, then, decades ago, a couple decades or so ago, I created an organization, actually a section of the National Council of Negro Women. We had never had one
Uh-huh.
on campus, and my sister Renita and I, shout out to my baby sister who was roommates back in college, but she and I created an organization just to focus on sisterhood, so that even if you're not in a sorority, even if you didn't have a clique or a tribe or whatever when you were in college, you had a space to come and build and connect and fellowship. And we hosted events in the city. We did fundraisers. We did a lot of community service. So again, that place of sisterhood has been important to me for a long time. I know how valuable it is to have a sisterhood. And I'm not saying having 25,000 friends. It could be one amazing friend, one person that's in your sisterhood that allows you to thrive, that allows you to be your authentic self, that gives you great feedback and supports you. And so, fast forward through the rest of my life, you leave your college friends behind, you go on and be an adult. And so that need for sisterhood still resonated with me. And so when I created Ramunda Young Inc., the whole purpose was, how do we teach women how to soar, surpass obstacles, and rise? And so that comes all through teaching women how to build business connections, mentoring, relationships. But again, it's all centered around sisterhood because of the value that it is. And some women, it's interesting. I've heard women throughout my life say, oh, I don't have friends that are girls. I can only, hang with guys. And, that's cool. I have male friends too. That's a great thing. But there's nothing that compares to having a woman that you can call and chat with and share your journey with and share your excitement with, because they have that similar journey to you. And so when I hear that, I'm kind of cringe and say, you know what, maybe they just haven't had that dope sister in their space, in their life to journey with them, because it can happen, right? It can happen to where they have those relationships. So it's just been something that's important to me. And I don't care what people say, I know that sisterhood can exist. And so I'm just going to keep being a champion of that.
Yeah. That and you are, and you have been, from the moment I met you. You've been really strong and passionate about that. Hence why I love your spirit, because it has always been
Thank
about empowering women and building,
you.
even young women. I see your daughter. I see how she's grown and just blossomed, and oh, it's beautiful. So I know that that's a lot of moms experience,
Girl.
mom pouring into her, and but that's who you are. So people that see you as the bookstore guru, the book club guru, no, this woman here loves women. She loves building and empowering women, speaking life into
Absolutely.
women.
Yeah, we are the carriers of culture. We hear that all the time, but we're birthing babies, or we're helping to care for other babies, our nieces and nephews. And so to have that piece of our family life stabilized is huge. It has so many different um, facets that it impacts. So yeah, it's important to me. All from a very deep place. It's important to
Yeah.
me.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Ramunda. So let's move on a little bit. We know that
Yeah.
you have been busy in your community for quite some time.
Mhm.
Again, a lot of people, this whole conversation was to let people know a little bit more
Mhm.
about Ramunda, not so much as a rehearsed kind of interview. It was just
I
like,
love
hey,
it.
let's talk about who Ramunda is, right? Her
Mhm.
journey, the woman, and all her amazement, and the things that you are so passionate about. It's more than books. You're passionate about
Mhm.
human rights. You're a human rights advocate. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how that began for you.
Absolutely. So again, growing up, when you grow up in a house of four kids, being heard
Yeah,
can be a challenge sometimes. It's four of
yeah,
you. So, your
yeah.
parents got to make sure everybody's heard. And so from a very young age, I found a space to make sure that I was heard. I was always the loudest one at times. I was always the one who had my hand up and said, hey, I have something to say. But then when I look around, there are other people who did not have that type of, whether it's confidence or comfort, to have that type of voice, right? There were many times that they felt that they went unseen. And that bothered me because I'm like, I'm not any different than them. I might be more vocal, but they still have great value. They still have great insight. They still have a journey too. They have experiences that help shape them that other people need to know about. And so from a very young age, I kept looking around like, okay, I'm not only, I feel like I was the only one sometimes. There's a lot of vocal dynamic women out there. But in my circle, I felt like, it wasn't that many. And so when I had an opportunity to be a part of the Human Rights Commission, the whole premise for me to even go and find out and be appointed was, how do I help create a voice for those who don't have a voice?
Yeah.
We live in Prince William County, where the majority of the people here are people of color, right? And so when you think about the different things that are happening out in the world, whether it's crime that's happening, whether it's police brutality, it's making a space for people who don't have a voice. And that's what the Human Rights Commission does. And that's why I feel like I'm so at home with that. There's things that happen in the workplace. There's things that happen when it comes to even getting a place to live, or discrimination in that space. People deserve to have a place to go to work and not be discriminated against. People have the right to have a place to live and not be judged because of how they look. And so the Human Rights Commission actually hears some of those cases, which is a blessing to sit in that space and hear that and make recommendations for the Board of County Supervisors that are right here in this area.
Yeah.
But again, it stemmed from me as a little child. So I'm like, you know what, I have a voice, but everybody has a voice. But some people really don't know that they have that voice. They don't know the power that means. Because for a lot of times it was either beat out of them for different reasons, or,
Yes.
a lot of times I was told, kids are to be seen and not heard. So we grow up in this space of not utilizing our voice. But as adults, we have a right, we have an opportunity to use that. And so human rights is something very personal to me, because I know that we deserve that. We deserve to be seen. We deserve to be heard. And so being a part of it has been just a joy for me. We get to be so many different organizations throughout Prince William County and hear what their missions are and see how we can support them. It's been a joy, and to serve as the vice chair has been a blessing too. So there's some great commissioners out here who really believe in everybody having a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for the work that you do, Ramunda. It's needed, and you're right. We live in the same county, and I know that it's needed. And people like you, you paved the way for us. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate you sitting at the table, being a voice at the table, contributing at the table into the causes that matter most to people like you and I. So thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for doing that work for us. Now let's pivot a little bit.
All right.
2020, girl, 2020.
Wow.
2020 has done some things. But you have a thriving bookstore in Washington, D.C., in spite of. So you and your husband and your daughter are amazing entrepreneurs. You are bringing things, you've brought things to our community that was necessary and with class. Can I add that part?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm down with class.
Right.
I'm down
So
with that. I'm down with that.
let me add that part. Yeah. So Mahogany Bookstore is classy.
Thank you. I like
It is.
that. Okay.
It is. It's classy. I've been to quite a few bookstores, and I don't want to take anything away from those that I've gone to, but I will say you guys are a great addition to Anacostia. Arts, I think it's the arts area. Is that what is the arts?
Art center.
There
Art
you go.
center.
So you are a wonderful addition, and you fit in very well. You are very classy. The bookstore is tasteful. It's beautiful. It's colorful. It's definitely Ramunda. It's
Ramunda
bright.
and Derek.
Ramunda and Derek. Derek is typically like, when I've seen him, he's normally kind of in the back, kind of calm. He's doing his thing. He ain't really like put me in front of the camera. Don't put these bright colors on me. I wore this color for you tonight. I know it's
Hey, girl. I see you. I see you.
So, but it definitely screams at you when you walk in, and it's and in truth, for those that are watching and listening, never gone, when the world gets back right and you can go in there, it feels like home.
Mm.
It's very
I love
welcoming and it feels like home.
Oh, that's so intentional too. And we've heard that from many, many people.
Wow. Wow.
A lot of people, they've said it felt like home, it feels like family, and it feels like love. And when
Yes.
we created that space, we had a good mentor, a friend of ours who's also an entrepreneur. And he said, you all need to be in charge of what people see, what people smell, and what people hear when they walk into your space. And so when we were online for 10 years, that was not, you couldn't really create or control the environment because you're online. So, and, people can have a screen open and see your page and have
Mhm.
20 other screens open. But
Right.
when they walk through our doors, we took that to heart, what people heard, what people saw
Yeah.
and what people smelled. Essence did a profile on us a few years ago, and it was funny. The journalist kept asking us, "What does that smell?" I looked on all of your social media pages, and everybody was saying they have this wonderful, you guys have this wonderful smell in your store. What is that? And I said, I can't tell you, girl. There's a few things, but people just commented on that over the years. But when people, for me, I really wanted people to feel like when they walked in, they were surrounded by culture. So we
Mhm.
have beautiful photographs on the wall of authors that have come before us, authors that are here now, because that's something that if it weren't for them, if it wasn't for Dubois, if it wasn't for James Baldwin, we would not even have a bookstore. They
Absolutely.
wrote, they created pieces that now we can read for a lifetime. So
Yeah.
to have them in our space means something to us personally. And so people can see those reflections up on our wall. We have different pieces. Actually, most of those things came from our home. We have African artifacts that I just
Yeah.
pulled off the shelves at our house and took them to the store because they were something that those were things that were important to us that made us feel like, man, our culture is so dope. Africa is so amazing. And so
Yeah.
we wanted to put those things in the store so whoever comes through those doors felt that as well, that pride.
Mhm.
And so that, but as far as what people hear, we're playing jazz, we're playing neo
Yes.
soul, we're playing hip hop. So all those things make us feel seen. I can't tell you how many times I'm sure you know too, but when you walk into other spaces, you don't see you,
Yes.
right? I don't see
Right.
me. I see a lot of other things. I see
Right.
quotes by people who didn't write, didn't look like me. I see
Right.
photographs of people who didn't look like me. And I shop at some of those places, but man, to walk in a space that really does feel like home
Mhm.
was important to us. And to be the owners, we get to choose. We didn't have to ask permission, from anybody to put those pictures on the wall or that to play what we wanted to play or to have that scent. Those were things that spoke to my husband and I. So yeah, it feels so good when people says it feels like
Yeah.
home because that's on purpose that
Yeah.
people
It
feel that way.
definitely It definitely does. When you walk in, and I just encourage those that are in our area and they hear this or they just Google Mahogany Books, put it on your list. It's an experience to go to that
Mhm.
store. Um, because it just is, it's an experience to go in there, and I love it. You all are
Uh,
very professional, you're warm, you're welcoming, you greet us with a smile, you're happy to see us come.
yes.
And the books, you have so many books that you didn't even know existed, old and new, so it's wonderful. We appreciate that. I'm speaking for the people. We appreciate that.
Hey, I love that. It's important. We hear that, and I appreciate you, seeing that. I've worked in the book industry for many, many years, even before I had ours. And I would walk into the bookstore, and I would have to hunt down the black books. It was like one shelf for two
Yeah.
sections. And so I worked some years later in a black bookstore, and I walked in. I mean, my jaw dropped because I didn't know all those books had been created by people who looked like me, or about my story, my journey. I didn't know that. So to be engulfed in that, had a lasting memory on me. And I often tell this story, but my husband and I were in the store. There was an older gentleman who came to our store. He had his little bomber jacket on, was walking in real slow, probably in his late 60s. And he walked and stood at the threshold of our store. And he stopped and he just paused and he looked. I mean, he just kind of panned the whole
Yeah.
bookstore, and then tears started coming down
Oh,
his face. And so my husband is like, sir, is everything okay? What's going on? He said, I just want you to know I've never, ever seen this many black books in my entire
oh,
life. I've never seen it. And so for me, every time I tell this, I start tearing up because
oh, yeah.
there is a need for us to be seen. There
Yeah.
is a need for us to know that we matter. And there is a need for us to know that our journeys matter, that our history matters, that our our wins matter, that our contributions to this world matter. And not just from slavery, not just civil rights behind it. We've done a lot of things. And so to walk in there and see books that reflect all of those things means something from a very deep space for me. And then when people see that and they get that, it knows that it makes me feel like we've hit the nail on the head. And so for that gentleman and other people to come in and see that, it's not a huge store. We just work every inch of that store. But when people walk in and they have that type of experience, that's important to us.
Well, we thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that whole 2020 situation.
Yes.
Many, many businesses, they crumbled during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
What impact did COVID have on your overall business?
Yeah, so COVID was this crazy thing. We're still in it, as you know.
Yes, of course.
But when COVID came back in March of last year, we had all these great events lined up. I was excited. People enjoyed coming to our events because, again, it's an opportunity for community and connection and conversation. So to have those events, planned, I was excited. And then, we get an email and it's an alert that say DC businesses must shut down. Not just our business, there was businesses all across the city and actually across the nation, just out of safety. And so, oh my gosh, I was thinking, oh, what are we going to do? Because although we were online all those years and we, had a rocking website and we were, shipping books nationwide, the bulk of our revenue at this point, once we had opened, had come from the store. So here we are. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is our mortgage coming through. We pay bills.
Yes,
this is how we live.
right.
So I'm like, to have that part shut down, I was nervous, to be honest. Those first couple of weeks, canceling those events that we had projected there was revenue coming in from that. People are not coming in shopping. And so I had a panic, moment, like probably for a couple of weeks, like, what are we going to do? Great, the website is there, but man, the traffic that came through our store and through those events, had us thinking about, what are we going to do? And so we started applying for grants and PPE, all those different things to try to get funding so that we would not fold. Prayerfully, we wouldn't fold. So that was for the first couple of weeks. And then, what, my husband and I, we just kind of stepped back and paused and said, you know what? We don't have to tinker with our website. It has already been rocking for 10 years. We don't have to do something different to the website, because that, for people all across the nation, shopping online was what people were doing. They could not go into the store unless it was a grocery store. So if you needed books or shoes or whatever, you had to go online because of COVID. And so for us, we really just kind of turned our attention to what our customers needed. Pardon me. And so we created book bundles because kids were now at home, being homeschooled. Schools were shut down at that point. And so when we looked at what parents were needing, we said, well, let's give parents books for their kids. And so we created book bundles. There was like an elementary kind of book bundle. There was a middle school and a high school book bundle that parents didn't have to think, if they're looking for Black books, let me see what MahoganyBooks has that speaks to my kids, that'll kind of keep them entertained or educated while they're sitting at home. And so we did that. And those book bundles, when I tell you, honey, they were flying off the shelves. They really, really were. So our bookstore was actually physically closed, but we kind of turned it into this warehouse. But we started, again, looking at what customers would need, thinking about, man, our daughter's at home. She loves to read. There may be parents across the nation that will love that. And so we just posted on social media, blasted through our emails. We did a few interviews so people would know that this is something that's there for them. And that part right there really helped us to kind of coast on through our doors being closed. And we even created I think it was blind date with the Black book. So it was a mystery box that people, you on a blind date, you don't know what to expect. So when people got our box, they didn't know what to expect, but you're excited because of what the potential was in there. So that went over really well. So those pieces of products and offerings really kind of started generating sales for us. So, like I said, the first couple of weeks I was tripping, like where's the income going to come from? And then those pieces there started to bolster. So those carried us for a while. And so once those people got, introduced to us, they started buying more and more things. So for us, it was kind of different for a lot of people who didn't, or even bookstores who didn't have a website, or their website wasn't really set up to, process sales. That was something that they were not able to take advantage of at that time. And so for us, it was just a blessing that, God is funny though. When I think about 10 years ago, when my husband and I were talking about, we wanted to open up a bookstore, an online was how we went. Online was not what we intended. We really wanted to open up a physical space all the
Right.
time, physical, physical, physical. And God was like, nope, online. It's low overhead. I mean, really, that's how I see it. It was low overhead. We didn't have a ton of employees, but we were able to get books out to in people's hands all across the nation at a minimal cost. And so, because we started online and we built that and we kind of perfected that system over 10 years, we were able to, in the middle of a pandemic, just put that thing, let it go, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have to tinker with it. But I can't even think, when I pause and think about where we would have been if we had started physically, it may have been a whole different story because we wouldn't have spent that type of time and focus on an online site. So COVID was cray cray for a little bit, but we were able to kind of go through this. We started our business actually in a recession, so here we are starting it now. This next phase in a crazy space. The United States is in a crazy space, but yeah, it's been a journey. It's been stressful. It's been crazy. It's so
But
it's been worth it.
You have persevered. You all have just, as you speak, you have soared.
I like that. I like that.
You
Yes.
have soared. You have actually done exactly what you teach on. You've soared.
Yeah. It's been a journey though.
Yeah. And you're right. I can only imagine how frightening it was because, to be truthful, I mean, your bookstore has become the place to be in DC. It has become the go-to bookstore, right? So, and celebrities come in and they go to your bookstore, celebrity authors come in. Your bookstore is the place to have, like, it's the who's who of bookstores and authors.
Okay, I like that.
So it and yes, I get the emails. You all have all kind of things always going on at the bookstore. So I can imagine how frightening it was when you didn't, when you realize like, okay, nobody's moving, nobody's flying in, no, we can't, the entire country's on lockdown. But look at you now.
Yeah, but it's funny though, in the midst of COVID, what struck us also, my husband and I, was that people still craved connection. A lot of people were isolated. A lot of people were at home. We happen to be, it's my husband, my daughter, and I. So there's three of us here. We're not, there's always something going on here. But then, I have family members, they're single or they're by themselves. And so to be isolated for that many months spoke to us. And so we really wanted to find out, how do we create our events in this virtual space? Because our physical events, we had a great time, great turnouts for a lot of those events. And so even in the midst of the pandemic, to answer your question in a different way too, with COVID, we created MahoganyBooks Front Row, which is our online virtual event. The whole premise was, how do you still be able to engage in the middle of a pandemic and have great conversations, all from the comfort of your own home, from the front row of your own home, best seat in the house. And so we created MahoganyBooks Front Row. So that was another way that we were able to boost, our sales and still be able to make an impact with people and have just people to be able to connect and commune in that way. So it's been interesting. And then the whole other piece with the George Floyd killing really impacted our business in a very, very significant way.
Absolutely.
And so that was later in the pandemic. But yeah, it's been crazy.
Well, let's talk about that front row for a second. I had an opportunity to sit in with the Cicely Tyson interview and Whoopi Goldberg, which was amazing. I loved it. Thank you for the opportunity. But you have so many amazing, as you can see.
I saw her back there. I see it.
She's there. Well. I'm almost finished with her. I'm always finished. I love the book. And I think I sent a couple out to other people just because, got to support the story, got to support the business. We have to do that. So things like that. I mean, you're right. We still want to remain connected, and your company, your business, your bookstore is offering that for us. When we connect. So if anyone's listening, you're not connected, get connected with this bookstore because they send out some really great emails, great discounts. I mean, you guys offer it all, and I appreciate that. You can pre-order your books, and it's wonderful. So
thank you.
Yeah. So let's as I said, during COVID, you guys didn't crumble. You might have stumbled a little bit. You might have, you might have had to take a step back and like, okay, let's reposition some things. But then in 2021, you made this huge announcement. You made an announcement about Mahogany Bookstore expanding, not just expanding. And of course, you teased us. Where do you think we're going to open the new store?
You
And
saw that, yes.
I'm guessing places. And then I plugged, as many others. We were like, the National Harbor. I mean, and then you make this announcement. I'm blown away over here.
Girl,
Girl, tell me about
crazy.
that.
Crazy. My husband and I, we've always wanted to have more than one mahogany books. And so, um, as the journey would have it, as God would have it, we were talking about opening up another store even before the pandemic, right? Sales were doing really well. We were really, connecting with people in a very rich way to where people felt that we were providing a service for them. So sales were really reflecting in that. And so we were looking at a space, even out in Prince William County, we were looking at a space, even to the point where we thought we found the perfect building. We were up at the building. I remember this very, very specific night. My husband, my daughter, and I, we had our coats on. It was freezing outside, but we went to a building. We saw it was empty. We're like, this is the perfect place. The location. We put our hands on the building and prayed. It was freezing outside, but we're like, this is the building. Yeah. And then that didn't happen. I think the landlord was like, you guys aren't big enough. No, thank you. We don't know. People don't know who you are. We're like, okay, no problem. And so here we are having the opportunity to open up National Harbor. I mean, there were other locations we looked at, but National Harbor was like, we want you guys. So we were like, okay, let's have this conversation then.
Yes.
All I thought of, oh my goodness, that lease is probably out of control. That's all I kept thinking of from a number standpoint. But they were so willing to work with us and create a deal that was just an amazing opportunity. So yeah, we're opening up at National Harbor. It's the perfect place. There's amazing parking, and it's in the middle of Prince George's County and, very close to Virginia. So a lot of people are like, open up in Virginia. When I was doing that teaser, a lot of people were hoping we were coming to Northern Virginia, but that National Harbor location, it's really accessible no matter where you live. They get about 14 million people there every year, that from a huge swath of people that are local. And then there's a huge swath of people that, travel in too. So I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited. I am, it's a pandemic. So, people are shutting down, and here we are saying, no, we're opening up.
You're opening up.
But it's a faith walk all day long to know that this is the next part of our journey that we're going to take. But I feel good about it. I am confident that God matches your boldness all day. If we step out, he matches that thing every time. And so here we are stepping out. We prayed about it. We're planning for it. And we're planning to open up on Juneteenth is when our grand opening is scheduled prayerfully for all this. We're having meetings with the architects and the interior designers and trying to, get that all worked out. And we have a good friend who's partnering with us. His name is Ken Mormon of Gerani Coffee House out in Prince William County. He's just been a dear friend of ours for several years. And so we've always talked about partnering and doing something together, and this is the one we're going to do together. So it is crazy. It is exciting. Thank you.
This is wonderful. So I can barely wait for you. Juneteenth is like the perfect day.
Right. On purpose, intentional. Thank you.
Yes, very intentional. I love it. Congratulations to you all for this move, this new phase for Mahogany Books and for Gerani. I'm excited about that as well. That is wonderful. Yeah, that's big. That's great. So let me just go back a little bit because I know we spoke about but I've heard you both talk about how your dates used to be in bookstores. I think it's the cutest thing. Was this just, you both just had this amazing love for reading or for Black books, or how did that happen? Or was it just like, hey, we're going to be dating on a budget. Let's go to the bookstore.
It was a little bit of that too. A little bit of that. But but my husband actually grew up, he's from DC. So he grew up surrounded by Black books and Black authors. But I grew up in Oklahoma, proud of growing up in Tulsa. But I did not come into contact with Black books until I got to Langston University. So most of my childhood and high school, I was not really exposed to Black books. I love to read. I was reading Harlequin romance novels and, stuff I probably shouldn't have been reading. I just ate those books up all the time. And so when we fast forward and met, we met on a dance floor in DC in a nightclub almost 20 years ago. But he had a love of books too. His mom would, expose him to books, bring books home for him to read. So he fell in love with books, Black books. And so when we got married, we were just tossing around, those ideas. What business would we like to do? We always dated at bookstores. We'd hang out. Our daughter would come with us when she was born and hang out and read. She's a huge reader too. But yeah, we would date in bookstores, had a blast. I was a bad customer. I'd be taking pictures of cooking recipes and self-help pages and going home and reading. So please don't do that at our bookstore. That's so bad.
Buy the whole book.
Buy the whole book. Please buy the whole book. Don't do like Ramunda did. But yeah, but we did. We had a good time dating in bookstores. And so that was another thing when we thought about how our stores looked. What would, my husband and I often comment that if we didn't have that bookstore, if we didn't own it, we would go in there and hang out. We just love the energy there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we dated in a bookstore and had a blast doing it. Yeah, it is part of our journey.
So, and it's beautiful. Can we talk about the book club? Because I know that you have a book club. Mahogany Books has a book club. Am I correct? How long have you had this book club, and how can we join the book club?
Absolutely. So we have the MahoganyBooks and Very Smart Brothers book club. We partner with a good friend of ours, Panama Jackson. Shout out to Very Smart Brothers. And so we did a collabo. And again, all about connection, all about community. How do we take these books and have conversations around these things that we're reading? And so the book club has actually been around. So COVID was 2020, 2019, the entire year of 2019, we had an online book club. Actually, we met in person in our store, but we would stream it through social media. So no matter where you lived, again, you could participate in these conversations. You can put a question in the comments, and then we would ask it if we had the author there. So it's been a highlight for a lot of people, especially in person. I mean, they get heated in those conversations. It's just real, like a cipher really half the time where you're just throwing out ideas and, I don't believe that happened in the book. I don't agree with that. It's just a very heated and lively conversation, but a positive one too. It's just great. And so, yeah, that book club is still rocking, but the pandemic kind of took us, I say, out of commission because now we didn't have that space in our store. We were closed from March all the way into October of 2020. So almost a whole year we were shut down. And so we did not do the online. We did not host our book club. And so fast forward to 2021, we kicked off the book club again with an amazing, amazing guest.
You did?
Yes. Hello. Yes. See the screen, everybody. Girl, I think I'm still reeling from that.
All right. You got to tell us about that experience. I know that you and your husband, obviously you all knew this was obviously a plan, but to see the faces, the little clip that you showed, to see the faces around the room of people that realized, like, wait a minute, that's actually President Barack Obama. Like, to see that it was priceless. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we found out, I guess, back at the end of last year, that President Obama started following us on Twitter. So I'm all pumped up, like, is this the real president following us? And it was. You got the little blue verified check. So that was in itself was an honor. Yeah, right. So that in itself was an honor. I was just excited that, wow, he's somebody on the team sees us. So, and so that was a few months ago at the end of 2020. And so fast forward to 2021, we get a call from his publishing team saying, hey, President Obama knows that you guys have an amazing book club, and he would love to come and be a part of the book club. And, we were telling, we were reading as a Promised Land, just individually, because again, we had not come together collectively, but A Promised Land had done really, really well in our store. A lot of our book club members had purchased the book, and just a lot of our customers. And so when this opportunity came that the President of the United States says, I want to join or attend a MahoganyBooks and Very Smart Brothers book club discussion, girl, I was, Lord is not the word. And they said, you'll have a few days to plan it out. I was like, wait, what? A few days? We will make this happen.
Yeah.
And so we reached out to all of our book club members, about 20 of them. We tried to keep it small enough so we could have a really good conversation. And We could not tell them that he was coming on. We had to say, we have a special guest that's joining us. And that was the key word. Once I said special guest, they would open up a Zoom screen and he would appear. And so people had read the book. They were excited. They just knew an Obama administration person would be on. They didn't have any idea that was him. They were guessing. They were just, is it going to be him? We couldn't tell. We had to, we could not tell. And so they were pumped up, honey. And so when he got on and was revealed, I talked to a lot of them afterwards. They were like, we didn't know whether to scream. It's the president. We wanted to be kind of professional. So they were like, a lot of them kind of paused. There was a few people who were, really vocal, but they really wanted to scream more, I would say. But they were trying to be, all have their decorum all together. But it was just a priceless moment to know that he saw us, that he was excited to be a part of our book club discussion. And we were there for about actually a full hour with him. I think the video shows like about 7 or 8 minutes, just a kind of an edited quick snapshot, but a full hour of President Barack Obama, 20 members of our book club, and maybe 2 or 3 people from his publicity team, publishing team. So that was it. So yeah, that was an honor, something I'll never forget.
It was wonderful to see it, and to see the eyes around the screen. It was like some were starstruck. They couldn't believe. They were like,
right.
They couldn't, but they weren't sure if like this is a recording. Is he live? I mean, it was perfect. And you and Derek, y'all were just so calm and cool.
Girl, but I was tripping a little bit. We've had the gift of being able to interview a lot of different people, and I rarely get starstruck because I'm like, they're just people like us. Yes. And so when President Obama said my name, all I could think of, oh my God, this is being recorded, and I'm going to play that part right over and over again, because he said Ramunda, and then he said Derek down there too. So my husband, he said he was trying to be calm, but it was just like, wow, he knows my name, or so it was just. It was very humbling to have that experience. And he did mention that he will come to our new store. We told him we're opening up a new store. He actually knew the new store before we announced it to everybody. We told him in the green room. Yeah. And so he was so excited about it. So we'll see. I believe him. He says he's coming to our store, whatever that is. Yeah. I really believe that he will. So a blessing.
They see the Obama. They support. They really do. They show up and they support. We get to see that here in the city. So we see that they do support several businesses and and initiatives. They get involved. They do. Yeah. So but yeah, girl, good for you all. It was perfect. It was wonderful. What an experience.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we had a blast.
Mm-hmm. So let's go into this experience. Let's talk about this for 1 moment. The Black book experience. How important is Black culture outside of what the education system as we know it teaches our children?
Oh my goodness, it is crucial. I used to read, and I still read a lot of the different stats, but there are so many statistics that show that reading books, especially for kids of color, reading books that have characters that reflect your own ethnicity impact self-esteem and self-confidence. And so to be able to arm our kids with that from a very young age is transformational, because we don't get for a lot of us, we don't get to see books that look like us. My husband and I were talking last week. We had to read Jack and Jill, and it could have been Jamal and Jackson, but it was Jack and Jill. They did not look like me. They did not have names that sounded like mine. And so we read these stories in a space that's kind of a detached place. Or you see Cinderella. Cinderella does not look like me, or Superman. I could be a superhero, but to see Superman, it doesn't seem like that exists. And so to read those statistics and know the power of reading a book just with characters that have faces and mannerisms and a journey similar to yours impacts your self-confidence. And so when you impact self-confidence, that's your job. That's how you focus on your life, how you feel about yourself, how you interact with your mates, right? Having that self-confidence. And so having a book, having books that really focus on that is huge to us. All types of books, we carry fiction, nonfiction, biography, vegan cookbooks, all kinds of things that show us that we exist in life, in all facets of our life. And so it's huge. And so that child, who did not get the education of books, like I didn't get, like I said, exposed to Black books until later on in life. But to have that as a kid, I mean, it can only impact them in an immeasurable way. And so they grew up feeling more bolder, more confident, more loving of themselves. You talk about the relationship zone that we're in. The first
Yeah.
relationship is with ourselves, right? And so
Mhm.
if we feel good about ourselves, we show up as our full selves with people that we want to date or our sisterhood. Every relationship that we can think of, we are impacted because of how we love ourselves. And if we can see ourselves on the written pages as entrepreneurs, as inventors, as scientists, as happy Black families, that
Yeah.
means something of significance, right? And so that's why we also sell books. It is important that people, that we get to see ourselves on those pages. And so outside of education, it is huge, but
Yeah.
more educators need to make sure that that is a real thing and not just for Black people. A lot of people think, oh, those are Black books just for y'all. No, honey, they are for everybody. That experience, our experience is for everyone to read. Because a lot of people who read our stories, white people or people of other nationalities, develop a sense of empathy. You talk about empathy, being able to
Yeah.
put yourself in somebody else's shoes. That's huge. That's huge in how we build and connect as a society. So everybody should be reading Black books. It's not just a Black thing at all. It is a historical thing. It is something of significance that everybody should be exposed to.
Love it. I
It's
love it.
serious. It's serious.
I
Thank
I
you.
love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. So as I shared with you earlier, because we'll be wrapping up in a few minutes.
Oh, too
So
fast, too fast.
I have polled a few people, asked them for some questions for that I could present to you today. And for those of you that are watching, share this video because if you have any questions, then you can drop them in the comment section and we can ask Ramonda live tonight and get some answers. So please, while I'm going through my questions, if you have any questions or comments, and drop them in the comment section, we would appreciate that. So, are you ready?
Okay,
Let's
I'm
do
trying to be. Yes. Okay.
it. Well, these are just some questions. Hey, you got this, girl. You got this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is my personal question. Okay,
Okay.
your health and fitness journey. I've watched you evolve into this new fit and fabulous sister. So, tell me a little bit about what put you on this journey and how that journey is going.
Oh, girl, that's a tricky question. So the journey, how it started, I was actually in a space for years, wanting to change something about my weight, lose weight. I felt, I had cute clothes. I always felt like I was rocking it out, but I was like, man, I could be better. I could feel
Mhm.
better. And our business requires so much energy, so much stamina. From events, from being on when we're meeting people. So it's a lot that's required of us. And so I wasn't sure how to do that. I had never done any kind of weight loss diet, changing how I eat ever in my life. I was just eating everything I wanted to eat. I had been slim most of my life, almost all of my life I'd been slim, but I slowly gotten comfortable. We'd work late nights, 2, 3 in the morning, then I would stop and eat something. So it was just a bad cycle, bad habits that I had gotten into. And so a dear friend of mine, shout out to Karen Q and Scale the Limit, created this dope program. And she reached out and said, hey, I know you've been talking about you want to do something with your weight. I started this whole new program and I would love for you to participate. You and a few of our other sisters that are a part of our tribe to participate. And I was like, you know what? Okay. But it was this really crazy space though, because I was doubting myself, man, you've never done this. Can you, are you going to fail at this? You start things, sometimes you don't finish. So all this negative self-talk was trying to take me out. Right. And I started thinking, man, I can't do this. I don't know if I have what it takes to do it. But I said, you know what? This is Ramunda. This is my life. I was pre-diabetic, right? And so that scared me. My mom has diabetes. So I was like, how do I change that? And here I am presented with this opportunity to potentially change that. And so I did it. I said, you know what? Shut up, side voice over here. Right? I had to mute that voice that was going on inside my head. And I took a chance on me. And so I started that journey that January 2019. And that month, it was a 47-day process of really focusing on, cutting out sugar, really
Mhm.
cutting out carbs, and really eating very healthy, very clean, veggies and fruit and things like that, and meat, very specific things. And for 47 days, and those first 47 days, I lost 25 pounds, and I felt great. I felt strong. My I went from pre-diabetic to nowhere
Wow.
near being a diabetic.
Wow.
And it was a gift. And like I said, I had to fight through that negative self-talk of,
Mhm.
you're about to do something that you may not be able to finish, that you won't finish. All that chatter was going on.
Mhm.
And so me looking at, that being pre-diabetic, I didn't want that anymore. And so that's what really was the impetus of helping me get on that journey. So, but here I am through COVID. It is a girl, I just kind of slipped back. It's like, Lord, help me get it together. I got to get it together. I can't wait till this is over. I'm sitting at my desk half the time and nibbling on this. And
Yeah.
so it is
Mhm.
definitely a journey,
Yeah.
but one that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
one I'm
Well,
excited about.
we got a chance to watch you melt right on down. I was like,
Hey, right?
Ramunda is on it. Go ahead, girl. You are always fly. You are
Oh,
always
thank
snatched
you.
and put together. But
I'm
you could
trying.
see it. You were on this real health journey, and you could see that you were taking back your life, your health life, and it inspired a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of you,
Yeah.
girl.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm still way down from where I was when we started, but COVID has been not nice to you, girl. Or I haven't been nice to COVID. I'm just eating up this and eating up that, but I'm excited to kind of jump back in there and really, make that a reality for me again. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
still feeling good. So
good for you. Good for you. Okay. So, first question from the audience.
hmm
What is your what is your favorite book, your favorite author, book, or genre of books?
ooh,
I
girl,
know.
that's a
It's
tricky.
a tough question.
It is so many books, but a couple of books stick out to me, and one is Asada by Asada Shakur. When I read that book years ago, I mean, her story is one of such power, of such courage, of such fierceness, of such owning who she is and was. And so that one, Asada Shakur, would probably be one of my top three books. And so if you haven't read Asada, please read her story, be encouraged, be inspired by that story. And then another one is Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. You talk about mind blowing and
Yeah.
realizing, wait a minute, we've been taught this. Hey,
Yeah.
wait, this is the reality? Mind blowing.
Yeah.
You'll see life in a whole different way because you'll see the different things that we've experienced and we've been taught that were not the truth.
Yeah.
And so that we were not, that book was not anywhere shown in my school, right?
Yeah.
Or taught or
Exactly.
been part of the curriculum. And that was probably intentional. So I would encourage people to read Asada by Asada Shakur and then Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. Both of those are transformational. And I don't care what color you are, you need to read those books.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you with
Mm-hmm.
um The Miseducation of a Negro. That has to
Yeah.
be one of my favorite books, and I've
Mm-hmm.
read it and I've listened to it on audio.
Okay.
It is mind blowing every time, and I still go back and I read it and I refresh myself. Like, there's certain things in it that, sometimes I'll just shake my head like, wow, this,
Yeah.
and I agree. This wasn't discussed when I was a kid. Not in my house. I know some people were privileged enough to grow up with these books, with that particular
Mm-hmm.
book. But I wasn't. I caught it much later. But when I did read it, Ramunda, I was like, I could barely believe what I was seeing. And I kept telling everyone, y'all gotta read this book. Y'all gotta read this book. So I agree with
Yeah.
you with that one,
Yeah.
definitely. And
That's a staple. I'll say that again.
I haven't read Shakur's book, but I will, because you're
Yeah.
definitely talking about it, and I'll get that book. I'll order it
Yeah.
through you.
Hey, come to MahoganyBooks.com and get Asada.
I
Asada.
got
Yeah.
you. I got you. All right. Second question, or third
Mm-hmm.
question. How do you keep your faith as an entrepreneur? Ooh.
Oh, girl, we wouldn't even have a business if I didn't have faith. I mean, there's no way that you could go through so many nights of self doubt, so many nights of man wondering if you were doing the right thing, so many nights of hearing other people's voices saying, what in the world are you doing? Open up a bookstore in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a recession back in 2007, in the midst of bookstores closing left and right. All these years, bookstores have been closing. The last probably 5 years, it's been on an uptick, but those years, bookstores were closing, and here we are saying, no, we're opening. Um, it was only faith. That's only us getting in a quiet place and saying, God, are you for real? This is what we're supposed to be doing? And questioning that and wondering that. And then, you know what, grabbing hold to that and say, you know what, no matter if anybody else can see this journey, this vision, we see it. We know the significance of it. We see the stats of what Black books mean to Black people and Black kids and to everybody. And so faith has been huge. Before we, signed the lease of this new store, we prayed about it. My husband and I laid in bed and held hands and prayed about it and said, God, is this what we're supposed to be doing? It feels good. The deal is great, but is this where we're supposed to be? And so faith has kept us all along the way from shunning, really shutting out those other voices that say, no, y'all, you're doing the wrong thing, or you shouldn't be doing this. When God is over here saying, no, this is where I want you guys to go. So it's been huge. It was, when George Floyd was murdered and our sales went through the roof because everybody was looking for Black books at that time. Mm-hmm. Our website had been rocking and rolling at that point, was just bursting at the seams. And not so much the website, but the fulfillment of those books. And I'm like, God, what is going on? Are we able to keep up with this? How are we able to facilitate this? We got people mad because their books aren't coming in on time. And, books are being printed up in other countries and it was just a crazy time for us where we were up 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning trying to figure this thing out. And I said, you know what, let me calm down. Let me step back and pray and get some clarity. But it's stressful moments. But once I step back and remember who is giving us direction, whose voice I'm hearing, that gives me comfort. But it's a battle at times because I have to remember this ain't even about us. It's about God getting the glory. And a lot of entrepreneurs at times are like, you know what, I did all this. No, I'm clear. I'm so clear. It was not Ramunda and Derek that did all of this. So faith is a huge part of our journey, of our success. And because I think that we put a name on it, we're not ashamed to say that. I think that inspires other people and helps with their success too. So it's built into who we are.
Love it. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Next question and this kind of ties into what you just said, actually, with over 130 Black bookstores out there. Did you see more people searching for Black stories during 2020? George Floyd, Breonna, and Ahmaud. Wow.
Yeah, we did. It was crazy. I mean, I think on that day, it was May 26th, I believe it was, when our website just started going crazy. I was looking at our sales. It was like a ticker tape. It was just going, I was like, what is going on? Who's buying all these books? It was a hoax. What is happening? Right. And it was this clamor. It was this hunger for, I'll say white America, to be honest, because Black people had, these stories weren't new. The books that they were buying, they had been on the market, some of them 2 or 3 years. And so when a lot of people saw that the murder of George Floyd happen on television, when they saw Ahmaud Arbery get shot down, a lot of people really started looking at themselves. It was a very visceral reaction for white America, I'll be honest. And Black America, we've seen a lot of these. We felt the hurt. We felt the betrayal a lot of times when we see those murders. But for this time, I think there was a lot of different things at play. I think everybody was at home in the middle of a pandemic. Our faces were glued to screens, whether it was our TV or laptop, our phones. We saw those images of a murder. And what I think people saw back at them was, man, I didn't realize this was happening. I see it now. When I saw that police officer on George Floyd's neck, I see the smugness. I see the nonchalant. I see the blankness of his eyes, like that he didn't care. And I think that struck a huge nerve. And I say think, but a lot of our customers told us that they struck a nerve, that they felt like helpless. What can we do when we saw this? And so once that happened, our sales were crazy because people are like, you know what, how do I learn more about the Black experience? We talk about slavery day after day, year after year, but a lot of people are like, wait a minute, I want to read books about this. And what happened with those 130 bookstores, there was I can't remember who the man was, but I hopped on Twitter and there was a man out there. He said, all these people are trying to buy Black books. That's amazing. That's great. He said, but what you must do, not just buy a Black book, but you must buy a Black book from a Black bookstore. And he named, tagged a few bookstores. He said, because these people have been standing in the gap for decades. This isn't new, but all of a sudden it's new to you. So if you're going to support this and you want to make a change, pay Black bookstores who stood in the gap and pay Black authors who have been writing these works for years. And so I think people, instead of going here, they were like, oh, let me be true to this. Let me be authentic. Let me say, if I want to make a difference, if I saw those images and I want to do something about it, I'm going to go and click on MahoganyBooks.com or other Black bookstores. And I cannot tell you how many books. We're actually from May into October, Mahogany Books did 100,000 books by ourselves.
Wow.
100,000 Black books went through our fulfillment centers. We had to amp up our team. I mean, it was crazy. You talk about up 4 or 5 a.m. Website was kicking, rocking, rocking,
Yeah.
rocking. But then, the fulfillment, some books were in their 18th and 19th printing because, I mean, when I talk about the doors, a sea of people clamoring for Black books, they had to keep printing. Paper was short. There was a shortage of paper. A couple of the big printers in the United States broke down. It was crazy. So we have people like, "Where's my book? Where's my book?" And we're like, "Wait a minute! They're trying to create and print a book because those books, now people were looking for them." So it was crazy, but
Wow.
it was a journey. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And I can
Yeah.
only imagine that more non-African American people were
Yeah.
looking for books.
Yeah.
Because because we've been told a particular history. Well, they have as well.
Come on,
So
girl.
it's not, you know, it's not one-sided. They have as well. Um,
Yeah.
that education system teaches them as well. And then they
Absolutely.
find out through life that it's not quite what they have been told. So it's nice
hmm
when they decide to search for themselves to see it from a different lens, because many of them
Yeah.
have been, told the untruth as well. So
Right. Yeah. They were miseducated. Right.
they were
Yeah.
misunderstood.
And much of it for not for their own. It was the social construct. That's what That's how it's been. So
Yeah, yeah. So they just thought
definitely.
this is how it is, but no,
Yeah.
there's another story to be told. And
hmm
so thank you again
Absolutely.
for you all providing that. All
hmm
right, last question from the audience.
Okay.
How do Black authors get their books into your store? I know you have to get that question all the time, because anytime I tell someone that I know a Black bookstore owner and family,
hmm
they're like, "Well, how can we get my book in there?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can send her an
Yeah.
email and ask. I don't know."
Right. I get that
Yeah, you
question
can
every.
answer this question for everyone.
Yes, I get it all the time, and that's fine too. But actually, on our website, there's a section called Author Relations, and so if they click on Author Relations, there's a submission form there that they can complete. It's actually two forms. There's a form there if you want to just have your book in our store. Like if you live in Houston, you may not be able to do an event. You just want your book on the shelf. So if you go to Author Relation, there's a form for book submissions. And then there's one for events as well. If you're local or if you're going to be in town, you can complete that form there and we can kind of look at if it fits with our store, fits with our mix, and we will host that event. We haven't hosted any in-store events since COVID, so we'll wait till that part opens up, but they can still submit that information. So at Author Relations, go to MahoganyBooks.com and then click on Author Relations, and you'll see the submission information right there in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So now let me ask this question, because I know you got the new bookstore opening up, which is super
yes.
exciting. Do you
Yeah.
plan to gentrify your bookstore?
Girl, that is a real question.
That's a real
That is a
question.
very, it is. My husband and I, before we said yes, that we talked about that probably 19 months ago when we were first thinking, when we were approached by this opportunity, like, do we switch it up?
Yeah.
Do we stay true to who we are? We opened up a Black bookstore to sell Black books because that's something that we saw a huge significance. But then we both have degrees in business, so we're like, how does this work? And so we really settled on we're going to stay true to who we are. We're going to sell Black books. But what we may do is add a few of the New York Times bestsellers because we're in an area where a lot of travelers come.
Mhm.
And so we want to be able to have maybe those New York Times bestsellers there. But other than that, 98% of the bookstore will still be Black books. That's who people have come to know us for. That's a space in the niche in the market that we feel very passionate about. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we won't gentrify. We might have a shelf in there for New York Times bestsellers. Maybe we still haven't even signed the document on that. He and I amongst
Yeah.
ourselves, but yeah, we have talked about it. So that would be the extent of any gentrification. I mean, it's like nil. It's like yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we may have the New York Times bestsellers, and there's a lot of Black authors on those lists. So we'll
Right.
see.
Okay. Okay. So y'all heard that, right? We're not going to fully commit to a
Mm-mm,
gentrification.
not at
Stay
all.
the brand. I love it. I love it.
Yes,
You want to
yes,
get Black books? We're gonna go through Mahogany Bookstore and go get those Black books. Okay.
that's right.
All right. Where can we find you? Or I know how I can find you, but where can we find you, follow you, and support
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. So please follow us at MahoganyBooks.com as our website, thousands of books there. But then also on social media, we are at Mahogany Books on all social media platforms. So join us, be part of the conversations, find some new books, and diversify your bookshelf. How about that? Yeah, do that.
Yeah. Well, Ramunda, as always, it's so wonderful being in your presence, talking with you. You
Wow,
shine bright as a diamond always.
thank
Thank you for
you.
stopping by the Relationship Zone. I have
Thank,
thoroughly enjoyed our conversation,
thank
and
you for
I hope
having me.
the
I have too.
absolutely. I hope the listeners, and I'm sure that they've enjoyed it as well. And so, to you all that are watching and those that's going to share and watch this later, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the show, for tuning in, for listening in to Ramunda as she speaks about her passion, her journey, this bookstore, and all the amazing things that is going on in her life and with her family life. So thank you all for listening in. Ramunda, is there anything you want to add before I close us out from being live on Facebook and YouTube?
No, I just want people to trust their own voice, no matter what that endeavor is, whether it's opening up a business, whether it's having a child, whether it's going to a relationship, trust your own voice. So many times we hear everybody else's voice and we shut down and shut out our own. So if people do that, I think I know they'll go far. I know they'll feel like they've satisfied their life's desire. So listen to your voice and just mute the naysayers that are out there. So that's what
Love it.
I want to leave people with that. Yeah.
Okay, y'all heard it here. Listen to your own voice, trust your own voice, and mute the
Mm-hmm.
naysayers.
Hello. Mm-hmm.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank you. Ramunda, I want you to hang tight. Thank you so much for stopping by the Relationship Zone. Thank you all for listening. Continue to support, share. Let's continue to support Black businesses. Um, because they're necessary. We're out here and we're doing amazing things. So thank you so much, Ramunda, you and Mahogany Bookstore.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
for having me.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.